It was another ordinary day in Festive Road. Boys played with toy rockets, while their mothers brought home the shopping. Number 52 is Mr. Benn's house, but Mr. Benn was nowhere in sight. He was in the back garden, talking to his neighbour. "Why is it," asked the neighbour, "that your grass always looks greener than mine?" "Oh, that's strange," said Mr. Benn. "I always thought yours looked greener than mine." And they both laughed. Mr. Benn soon appeared at his front door, wearing his hat and coat. And shortly after, he was walking in the park. Mr. Benn sat on a park bench and looked around. He saw a boy flying a kite. It went so high, it seemed to be reaching the clouds. "I wonder if it would go above the clouds if the string was long enough," thought Mr. Benn. It would be interesting to go above the clouds. Mr. Benn suddenly tingled with excitement. He remembered the costume shop which adventures could start from, and in almost no time, he was in the lane with the special shop. For once, he hardly paused, but went straight in. As if by magic, the shopkeeper appeared. "Good morning, sir," he said. "I do believe you have made up your mind already." "Yes, please," said Mr. Benn. "I would like to try the space outfit." "You know the way, sir," said the shopkeeper. And they both looked towards the door of the changing room, where Mr. Benn would try on the outfit. Mr. Benn was soon in the changing room and quickly took off his clothes and put on the space outfit. He looked at himself in the mirror. Then he looked for the other door, the door that always led to adventures. Mr. Benn didn't hesitate. He walked straight through the second doorway and found himself inside a spaceship. At the controls was another spaceman. "Hello," he said. "Ready for the blast-off?" "Here we go, then." And Mr. Benn felt the spacecraft start off. Mr. Benn watched the stars through the window. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To a planet covered with gold and jewels. We'll be rich," said the spaceman. That could be fun, thought Mr. Benn. Later, the other spaceman spoke again. "Nearly there. You can see the planet." Mr. Benn could see a planet which was very close. It looks very ordinary, but it must be very special with all the gold and jewels lying there, he thought. The spaceship landed with a gentle bump. Mr. Benn followed the spaceman down the ladder and looked around. Just as the spaceman had said, there were lumps of gold and jewels just lying there. "We're rich," said the spaceman, and it wasn't long before he and Mr. Benn were walking around with their arms full of gold and jewels, looking for even better pieces to carry. They walked around a rock and met a man dressed in rags, sitting on a large lump of gold. "Hello," said the man. "What are you going to do with all that you're carrying?" The spaceman laughed. "We're rich. We can do anything we like with it." "I'm afraid you're wrong," said the ragged man. It's no good to you at all. There are no shops on this planet, so there's nowhere to spend the riches, and as soon as you take the gold and jewels away from this planet, they turn into ordinary stone. This planet is useless. The next planet is the place to be. There they live in comfort, food, clothes, everything is free. "In that case, we may as well go," said the spaceman. "In fact, let's go to the next planet." And without their riches, they went back to the spaceship. Mr. Benn kept one piece of gold to see how it looked after it had changed. The spaceship flew away from the planet and sped on its way. "There it is," said the spaceman, as another planet appeared very close. It was not long before the spaceship had landed, and the two men were looking around the planet. They had landed near a town. The shops were full of things, and nobody looked poor. The restaurants had tables outside where people sat and ate, and everything was free. Mr. Benn and the spaceman sat down at a table. Gradually, they realized what was wrong with the place. Apart from Mr. Benn and his friend, everything was dull. When the waiter came, they asked him about this dullness. "Well, sir," he said, "there's no colour here at all, and if you stay here very long, you'll be just like us." Then he told them of another planet where everything was very bright. "Come on," said the spaceman, "let's go there. I don't fancy a life without colour." They were soon back in the spaceship. Mr. Benn stood and watched the spaceman as they left the grey planet. Once again, the spaceship travelled among the stars. When they came closer to the next planet, Mr. Benn began to wonder if it would be as perfect as they'd hoped. "We'll have a good look round first," said the spaceman. "We won't even get out if we see anything wrong." Once they'd landed, they looked out of every window of the spaceship. Everything looked all right. Colourful birds flew past. There were bright flowers and trees, painted houses and brightly dressed people. They even looked through telescopes to make sure. The only unusual thing they could see were the hats that everyone wore down over their ears. "Just a fashion," said the spaceman. "Let's go outside." Once outside, they realized the hats were not just fashion. Everyone had their ears covered because the noise was so terrible. Mr. Benn and the spaceman ran back to the spaceship. When they were on their way, the spaceman said, "I'm lost. We'll have to stop at the next planet we pass and ask the way." And before long, they landed once more. This planet was very hot, too hot, but at least it was quiet enough to be able to talk. At first, there was nobody in sight, but suddenly, as if by magic, a man appeared. Mr. Benn smiled, for he recognized the shopkeeper. The spaceman explained to the shopkeeper that they were lost. He also told him about all the places where they'd been. "Now where do we go?" he asked. The shopkeeper told them of a place which was not perfect, but then it didn't have so much wrong with it either. "We'll try there," said the spaceman, and started to leave. I think I'll stay here," said Mr. Benn. "I've had enough travelling." He watched the spaceman leave and waved goodbye. "It's very hot, sir." "Step into the cave and keep cool," said the shopkeeper. Mr. Benn went into the cave, and as he'd expected, he found that he was back in the changing room of the shop. He took a last look at himself as a spaceman, and then changed into his own clothes. Mr. Benn went into the shop and returned the outfit. "Where did you send the spaceman?" he asked. "Here, sir, back to Earth." "It's not perfect, but it's not too bad either," said the shopkeeper. Back in Festive Road, people went about their business as usual. At his gate, Mr. Benn stopped and from his pocket took out a lump of stone. Nobody would believe that this was once gold, he thought. But I'll always keep it, then at least I will remember.